But the delay, finally, I'm back. And it's time to cook, man. I told you guys this is a cooking show, right? Although I talk about politics, economics, history, really, I'm just a chef, bro. I really just be cooking. So today, uh, I've got a video that I want to react to. And we got Max Dupria, who's been very outspoken about the so-called white genocide, which is a complete fabrication, a complete lie. And he was on Newsroom Africa doing an interview, and I wanted just to hear what he has to say about the 49 so-called Afrikaner refugees that have made their way to the USA. This Afrikaner refugee thing needs to really be broken down in a lot of detail, because what we're seeing here is white people just making up the rules as they go. Because when you're a refugee, you're not allowed to return to the country that you're fleeing from. But I believe that the DA went to court and they won a case that allows for Afrikaners to come back to South Africa if they so happen to not like America. How can you be classified as a refugee if you want to come back if you don't like your new host country? I mean, this thing is a complete, it's a lie. It's a complete lie. And I'm just glad that even white people are exposing it and being very outspoken, like Max Dupria, which we appreciate because they're helping to fight the good fight, which is to make sure that the world knows the truth about what's really going on in South Africa, and not what these colonizers and these white capitalists are doing by spreading lies and misinformation so that they can get their way. This is what white people do. They make all the rules for other people, but they don't play according to the rules. So let's have a listen to what this man has to say. By the way, I'm streaming on multiple platforms today, so please make sure that you subscribe. And if you want to donate, you can go ahead and do that on my PayPal. You can see the link below and also in the description box, so check that out. You can catch me on Twitch. This is my handle. It's the same on all platforms, Analyses of Sorts. I'm on Kick, I'm on Rumble, I'm on YouTube. Join my Discord, join my Patreon. Hey man, we're lit. Dog. We're going in. So yeah, man, everything's in my description, so check that out if you want to be a member of my channels. But without further ado, man, let's get straight into this. Let's listen to what Max has to say. It's really sad. I'm laughing, but I'm disappointed that this is where we are in South Africa. But yeah, let me just load this up.
Coverage around the 49 South Africans who we understand have landed in the United States now. And we discussed this with veteran journalist and author Max Dupria, who previously slammed AfriForum and Solidarity's visit to the United States. Max Dupria, it's to have you on the show once again, and we'll talk about the low point perhaps this is marking in South Africa's diplomatic relations with the United States. But just initially, your thoughts about the 49 Afrikaners who are now in the United States as refugees.
Let me kick off, Collie, by saying I watched your interview with Collie Creel. I found what he said utterly despicable. He should be ashamed. His family should be ashamed of him. He was playing this populist thing of farm murders. He refused to acknowledge that there is no genocide. He kept on talking around and around and actually shifting the blame. I thought it was. He's become a bit of a mouse nowadays, old Kali. I think the 49 refugees is the height of absurdity. And I think every South African who watches this knows there is no genocide. Ek is 'n Afrikaner myself. There is no genocide. We are not being persecuted. Most of us live a privileged life. We have a constitution with a Bill of Rights in which it says you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race. We have the Human Rights Commission, we have equality courts, we have an open society, we have a free media.
These are the people that are escaping so-called white genocide. They don't look all that distressed. They look pretty chill to me. Yeah, I mean, if you live in South Africa, you know it's a complete farce for white people to claim that they're the targets of some kind of genocide. These people are living soft, man. At least they're living far better than what blacks are. Blacks are the ones that are truly suffering in this country. And that is being undermined by these cries of white genocide that is not happening. You know, there are people that are truly suffering in this country. I would argue there's a black genocide in South Africa because black people are being systematically killed through the economic system that is still controlled by white elites. They never let go of it post-apartheid. Everything just got privatized. So when you hear the DA talking about making the markets happy, that's who they're referring to. People who accumulated their wealth during apartheid and that are holding on to it and they don't want to let it go. They're holding on to the land and the resources. And they are filthy rich off the industrialization and slavery of the South African land and its people. So this picture we're seeing here, these so-called refugees, these people are not suffering. I'm telling you right now, guys, they're living a very soft life. And whoever's going to be receiving them in America, just know that these people are liars. They are liars, and they cannot stand the idea of actual equality. They can't stand the idea of redress in South Africa and being subject to true black leadership, not what the ANC is doing. That's not black leadership. That's the black bourgeoisie that is controlled by white ruling elites, by white capitalists. Right? They're getting their piece of the pie from the white capitalists as well. That's not true black leadership. I'll show you black leadership. But let's listen. You know, we got to give credit to Max du Preez for calling out his own people. He's Afrikaans himself, and he's calling out the nonsense. He's calling out the lies and saying, it's absurdity. It's absurd to say that there's a white genocide. And we know it's because there are people that are whispering in Donald Trump's ear. And Donald Trump doesn't care to try to find out the truth. He wants to go along with the narratives because he himself is a racist, just like Elon Musk and all the other South Africans that are living in America that are whispering in his ear, lying to him about what's going on. Gary Player, all these guys, Chad Leclos. It's quite shocking to know the number of racists South Africa has, even post 94. But at the same time, is also no surprise.
This is just fantasy, and I don't think it's about us. Frankly, Collie, I think this is about Trump's America. They have declared a war against diversity, equality, and inclusion, DEI as they call it, which our version of that is affirmative action and black empowerment.
Yeah.
And they're grabbing that to demonize us as if in any reasonable person's mind, after 300 years of colonialism and 50 years of apartheid, we could just
400 years.
Say, let the natural forces, the market forces run with it. We had to do something to build on the ashes of the past.
Yeah.
But Trump doesn't understand it, and he's aided, like Simon said, aided by Elon Musk and Joel Pock and other ex-South Africans who maybe had unhappy childhoods in South Africa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that
we don't care.
But I did.
Dude, you want to talk about an unhappy childhood? Try being a black person that has lived through apartheid, and even the people that are in their 30s today, that lived at the sort of the beginning, the advent of this sort of farcical rainbow nation that was still subjected to racism and a lot of confusion because you had to kind of exist in both worlds as a black person. If you went to white schools, a lot of the times you're living in townships or in areas that were populated by black people. And it was difficult to find an identity and to know exactly who you are and where you fit into this new South Africa. But you want to talk about a rough childhood, you can't use a white person as a reference. They're the last person you should use you should even think about when it comes to tough childhoods.
Let me tell you, I had 3 interviews this morning with British and European television stations. And it's kind of predictable what I was going to say and so on. And then I suddenly realized they don't really believe me. They kept on asking, but why would Trump do this if there's no genocide? Why would Trump do this if farmers, white people don't get their land taken away? And that's the damage it has done. It's demonized our country. It's damaged our country. And AfriForum and Solidarity should take a large part of the blame. Not these 49 people. They must be struggling. I'm sorry for them. You know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of white people and Afrikaners have emigrated. So they could have gone to the United States or Australia or New Zealand, but they are struggling. They're not successful human beings here. And so they become partly economic migrants, but partly, I suspect, and I don't know any of them, partly, I suspect, an unwillingness to live in a non-racial democracy.
Max, if this is not about us as South Africa, as you've put it a moment ago.
One thing I love about Newsroom Africa, I love the type of news networks that have opinionated hosts. You could tell that this guy has a lot of displeasure when it comes to talking about topics like this because he thinks it's ridiculous. I need to find. There's another interview. I think I forget who it was with. Maybe one of these AfriForum guys where it was like a back and forth, an actual argument, and he was just laughing because he couldn't take him seriously. And that's the thing. We're at that place where we can't really take the rhetoric that comes out of out of a racist mouth seriously. We already know their agenda. They've been exposed. We know all their chess moves. So what they say to try to deceive us worked in yesteryears. It doesn't work anymore, right? Yo, guys, please drop a like. Don't forget to leave a like. Leave a comment if you're enjoying the live. But yeah, let's continue.
If this is about Trump and the diversity laws that he is fighting in his own country, how difficult or easy a discussion is President Ramaphosa going to have then with President Trump if in
President Ramaphosa is not a real president. He's just a puppet president that has been installed by white capital in this neo-colonialist era. Remember, the government and the structures that are put in place post the colonial era are there to maintain the spoils of colonialism. They're not there to actually have a proper revolution. So what we're calling our leaders and our political, democratically so-called elected leaders are all sellouts. They're getting a piece of the pie, the colonial pie, and they have no interest in seeing redress and transformation and actually implementing these things properly. Their job is to be the fall guys who act like they are trying to implement redress and fail dismally so that white people can say, you see, we try to give black people a chance, and what did they achieve? They accomplished nothing. In 30 years, what have they done? Forgetting that the colonial era was 400 years, first and foremost. And secondly, forgetting that these leaders have been installed here by white capital. They're not our leaders. They're not representing us. Ramaphosa is not representing the interests of Black South Africans, who are the majority of South Africans, by the way. They're 80%, so you can't even argue or debate this. Black people are 80% of this country. It is their land. The Bantu migration is a complete farce. It's a lie. We've been here. Archaeologically, it's been recorded that the so-called Bantu people have been in the Southern African region since 200 AD. So what are you talking about when you talk about the Bantu migration? Man, bro, white people can lie, hey? They will make up any narrative to justify their wrongdoing. And that's why it's important for us as Black people to be very well informed in politics, economics, and history. And like I've always said, that culture is more about history than it is about sort of certain traditions and customs and practices. Culture connects you to history. And what globalization does is that it removes people from their culture so that they don't know their history. And if you don't know your history, you have nothing to fight for, because you won't know what the previous generation fought for, so that you can know what your vision and mission is in your current generation and what you need to fight for. When the baton is passed to you, but you have no idea what has been done in the past, you cannot have a vision for your generation, and therefore you have no future. So globalists can come, and colonizers can come, and neocolonialism can thrive in a society that has no culture, because you have no history.
If indeed the meeting next week is going to take place between the two?
Listen, I take the freedom to speak frankly here. My dear old friend, President Ramaphosa, has been a bit of a disappointment over the last few
A
years.
bit. Come on,
But
man.
here's his one strength. He is a charming man. He's an utterly
No, man.
charming man.
Zuma's a
He's
charming
a highly
man.
sophisticated guy. He's going to say,
Of course, bro. Of course they put. Listen, white capital will always install a charming person, because you need to make the people feel like they're being represented by somebody with charm, charisma, someone that's likable. They're not just gonna pick a random guy. So of course Ramaphosa is a charming person. He's supposed to be. That's why they selected him and put him in place. But you can't be fooled by that. You got to look at the results. You can't look at how charming he is. What results is he producing for Black South Africa? Nothing. Nothing. Like all these presidents, and even if they have good intentions, there's nothing they can actually do. I reacted to the video of President Duma Boko Botswana, talking about the bureaucratic nightmare that is democracy. Democracy is there to ensure that there is no revolution. Democracy is installed to basically remove the ladder, to shut the door, to make sure that the colonies are not able to recover from colonialism. Unless you stage a coup d'etat, unless you stage a revolution in your country, you're going nowhere fast.
sit there. He's going to charm Trump. I
Charm a
hope
racist.
that he would do to Trump, that Trump would stop listening to Joel Pollak and Elon Musk, because even his embassy here must tell them there is no genocide. Not a square centimeter of land had been taken away without compensation from white people in this country. Our judicial system is intact. I think maybe he'll make a breakthrough. Maybe he'll charm Trump, but with Trump you never know.
Yeah.
He's not a very sophisticated political thinker. He's more of a businessman.
You see, I hate this framing where, yet again, Black people must beg whites for mercy. We have to try to charm Trump. What nonsense is this? We have land, we have resources, we have minerals, enough for us to feed our people. But here we are begging America. That lets you know we're living in the neo-colonialist era, or the neo-colonial era. We're not free. Why are we still begging people when we have everything we need to live and survive? What the fuck does America have? All they have is what they've extracted and stolen from other countries. Same as Europe. What do they have? All they have is what they've extracted and stolen from other countries.
Man, I see the Qataris have offered him a fancy new Boeing. Maybe Cyril should offer him a golden Weaver bride, something, you know?
Let me circle back to the 49 Afrikaners. If they are not the last to leave the country, Max, you've already made a number of statements about how not so successful they might not have been in this country. How should the rest of South Africa, therefore, react to this? Because possibly some people are watching this and saying, how can you be so unpatriotic to a country you were born in? So what should be the general attitude is perhaps what I'm asking you to the next group that leaves.
Yeah, I don't, as I said, I don't know any of these individuals. Maybe some of them are have horror stories to tell. And don't most of us have horror stories? As you yourself pointed out earlier, violence on the Cape Flats, violence in KwaZulu-Natal, in some of our townships, is a lot worse than the violence perpetrated upon farmers, people living farms. I think there's been a very healthy reaction in South Africa, and that is to joke about it, to mock these people. And we should mock Kali Kriel with his shameless populism in front of on our television screen. We should be sorry for them. There aren't many of chances. Maybe there'll be 100, 200, a few hundred of people who go over. And I can guarantee you, as a goeie Afrikaner myself.
Listen, the fact that the first number of people is 49 is enough to let you know that there's no freaking genocide. They should have been there in their tens of thousands, trying to flee, trying to escape. You've been given a free ticket to a better life in a first world country, and yet you don't want to leave. That should tell you they're living very privileged lives here in South Africa. These people are not victim of anything. They're the beneficiaries of 400 years of colonialism. No one should have any sympathy for these people. If you're listening from anywhere outside of South Africa and you thought that there was a genocide, there's none. There is no genocide. Start feeling sorry for these people that are spoiled and entitled, and it's never enough for them. 400 years of colonialism is not enough. They want more. They want more. They want to be further above black people. And when they see redress attempts being made, albeit poorly so, because the ANC is not there to actually change anything, they're just there to maintain, just like the DA, you know, they get nervous because, you know, they don't want to hear things like redress. What they want is to continue the economic dominance over black people, and for black people to not have a chance to breathe. As soon as it looks like things might change, as soon as people start becoming conscious and saying the right things and having the right conversations, they get nervous. And then we hear the threats about the markets and keeping the markets happy, and the foreign investors are going to run away, and then the economy is going to crash. Let it crash. Let it crash so all of you white people can go. Let it crash so all of you white people can run away, because we know you wouldn't want to live in a country like that. You guys are quick to say South Africa is your home, but I promise you, if we end up like Zimbabwe, all the whites are leaving because they see themselves as better and above blacks. So I don't want to hear it, man.
Oh, they're going to be, their children cannot go to school accounts. They cannot attend an Afriforum.
My question is this: how come white people and Europeans have the audacity to come to Africa, declare themselves Africans, create their own enclave, and even fight for independence in a land that's not theirs, and want to be a sovereign nation unto themselves with their own culture, while being on another person's continent? But when they go to America, they say Afrikaans is going to die. Afrikaans didn't die when you guys were in Africa because you didn't respect us. You showed us no respect. So why don't you go to America, show them no respect, right? Exercise self-determination, have your own culture, your own enclaves, your own Oranias, and then fight for independence while you're in America. Why not do that there? You won't because you know it's disrespectful. But you don't think black people deserve to be given any form of respect or dignity. They're not going to do the nonsense they do in South Africa when they get to America. They're not going to try to have their own aranyas and build their own schools and have their own enclaves with their own language. And they're not going to do that in another person's country, in another continent, because they want to show those people respect. But they have the audacity to come to Africa and tell us that they're Afrikaners, which means Africans. That's the insult behind that word. That's why I don't refer to them as Afrikaners. They're European settlers. They're Dutch, Boer. They're not Africans. These people are delusional. You know how crazy you sound when you're white and you're calling yourself an African? You're not. It doesn't matter how many generations of white people were born here. You are European. That's where you come from. That's where your ancestors are. You are not white. You are not African. You're not. You sound crazy. You have an identity crisis trying to force people to acknowledge you as African. It's like people that have an identity crisis around their gender and their sexuality.
Before a meeting, the weather is so bad they can't have a braai. It's going to be expensive. They're going to have to work in their own kitchens and in their own gardens. They are going to regret moving. And as soon as those stories come back, oh, and they can't come back and attend Oma's verjaarsdag.
They can, though.
That's not, if you're a refugee, that's a serious thing. A refugee means your life is in danger. Some other country has to rescue you.
They're going to come back.
That's the nonsense. I don't think this is a big phenomenon. I think it's nice to talk about it. It's not a huge phenomenon. As I said, it's more about MAGA America than it is about us. And I think the natural reaction to mock it, to joke about it, is a good one.
Let's end the conversation on MAGA America then. They seem to have a huge megaphone, and you have pointed out yourself that perhaps this is doing more damage than we are believing ourselves as South Africans, as you laid out earlier, the number of international media you were talking to, and why to them President Trump would be so insistent on a genocide that's going on here. How do we undo that? How do we take back the megaphone and use it to our advantage?
Well, yes, there's the whole thing of where there's smoke, there's fire. And of course, they see smoke, we don't see smoke, and there's certainly no fire. There's a lot wrong with us, but Afrikaner persecution is not one of them. I think we should live this down. I hope the President
live this down, no.
Will be convincing. And I think one other easy step, all go and ask this memo. Please, this nonsense. Please, this populist nonsense by singing that song that is 40 years old. It's not appropriate anymore. Ammunition to our enemies.
There he goes.
But we should live it down. We should live our lives. Democracy. We should take care to make ourselves more prosperous. I mean, already we have, and that's.
This is why you cannot trust white people, because this guy will say all the right things and then in the same breath try to very sneakily blame Julius Malema's singing of the song Kill the Boer, as if that's really the primary reason behind, which it's not. And that's why no matter how well-seeming a white person is, you can never trust them, because Max du Preez, that comment there that he made is kind of, it's a little suspicious to try to bring Julius Malema singing that song into it. No, white people must take full accountability for their lies. Don't try to make it seem as if they're lying because of something. No, there's no other reason. They're lying because they have an agenda, and their agenda is apartheid 2.0. Simple. Don't try to bring any other factor into it. Don't try to make it about anything else. So that's why I said it's all good and well that white people also fight the good fight, but you can never trust them. You can never trust their intentions wholeheartedly. Take everything with a grain of salt, with a pinch of salt.
That's what I have to point out to everybody is we're governed by a government of unity. Big partner to the ANC is a majority white Democratic Alliance. We have one of the almost exclusively Afrikaner party, Freedom Front Plus. As a cabinet, now does that sound like a genocide in progress? Can't.
Preez, thank you very much for your time this evening. Talking to us about the 49 Afrikaners who have in the United States as refugees.
Anyway, guys, I just wanted to share that with you. Please do leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back with another video. I'm a little bit, I won't say, but I'll be back with another video. I've got about 2 more lined up that I want to react to. I don't know if I'll do them now or later, but we'll see. Anyway, gents, thanks for tuning in.